In today's session, we're going to look at how to create a panorama by taking multiple photos and joining them together. Now, one of the first things I want to point out is that it most probably works best with your panoramas if you take your photos vertically. And these are the ones we're going to use for the test. And I have actually done it before, so I'll quickly open it up. And that's the sort of image we can end up with. It can look quite interesting. And that's put together using these 5 photos. And the vertical ones appear to work the best. Gives you a little bit more to play with. You can use horizontal images, of course, but it's up to you. I'm going to recommend vertical for this task, and a couple of the samples I'll show you here in a second, you'll see that they've used vertical images. So with this technique, I've created both these panoramas that are on your screen, and you can see by the gaps in the images that the original photos were vertical. They work quite nicely. This one I've left all raw around the edges where it doesn't line up. I haven't played with anything on it. There's lots of things you could do to tidy that up, and we'll talk about that another time. But you can also use pinhole images. So this is taken from about 2 or 3, maybe 3 or more pinhole photos. Now they were taken horizontally, so it doesn't have to be done with super high quality digital images. So we use Photoshop. So I've got Photoshop open. Now it's an automated process. So we're going to go to File. We're going to go to Automate. And down the bottom here, Photo Merge. That's the trick. This is a whole different range of ways of merging it. I'm going to start with this exercise with the automatic one. Now, we have to hit Browse. We can't drag and drop here. It's really annoying. And because I'd already checked this, I've opened up. There's my panorama test. I always like to have the source folder on my desktop so it's easy to find. So I'm going to select all of those, and I'm going to hit Open. So there are all my images ready to roll. I'm going to blend them together. Now you've got things like distortion correction, content aware fill transparent areas. You could do that automatically here. You can also do it manually later, and so on. I'm just going to blend the images together at this point. So I'm going to hit OK, and we can watch it being built down there, combined, analysing the photos to create the overlap, and you always got about the 30% overlap to make it work well, and it will create layer masks, as you can see coming up down the bottom right hand corner. So that's a really important thing, is you make sure that you've got a reasonable overlap in each of the photos, and about 30% is recommended. So here we go. There's our completed unedited image. Now if we were to go back to our, where is it, under Panorama Test, there we go, Panorama Test. If we were to go back to the JPEG that I had open earlier, and we just compare this. So there's the raw one, there's the one that's edited, so you haven't got any of the rough edges and so on. And you see I've trimmed it. I've most probably done a bit of content aware filling on it at some point too, which I'll get to later. So that's using the automated tool, and that's what I did here. But there's other ways of doing it too. I'll just close these down, we don't need these open. I'll close that one without saving it, and we're going to go through it again, and we're going to look at one of the different ones. So we go File, we're going to go Automate, and we're going to go to Photo Merge. Now, I might choose Perspective this time. Perspective, I'm going to browse my photos, quickly get them here. I'm going to hit Open. There they are, blend the images together and hit OK. So we go through that whole thing. As you can see, the automated process, combining the images, creating the layer masks, and then blending it together. But you can see already it's going to look a little bit different because I've used a different technique. So there we go. We've got image with all the different gap shapes. We haven't got the distortions here in the bit of the building. That may or may not be what you're after, but again, different techniques, different ways of doing it. I'll hit don't save again. And I mean, you could go through all those different techniques. We'll do it once more. So sorry, edit, automate, photo merge, one more. You can reposition collage, spherical, cylindrical. I'll try collage and just see what happens. I've not used that one before. Quickly grab my 5 images. Okay. We'll see how it combines the layers together. See, slightly different already. Okay, so this one's a little less smooth. You can see some of the gaps, but an interesting effect is the way it's collaged it together. So that's another option. You have plenty of options. Just quickly, I'm going to go back to the first thing again. I'm going to hit auto. I'll browse and get my photos. Let's try content aware fill transparent areas, see what it does. It may or may not work really well. We'll have a go. So it's trying to make it look complete without those blank areas that I had to crop out earlier. Creating the layers. And we've got the masking coming in there. Still doing stuff, trying to working now on trying to fill some of these areas. It's managed to fill down the bottom here reasonably well. It's now trying to do this. I think this could be a little bit too much for it, but we'll have a look. There we go. So if I hit Command D to get rid of our marching ants there, it's attempted to fill all the areas so it creates a rectangular image. We can see up the top here where it hasn't worked very well. Done a reasonable job up here, but you can see some of that. Now, some of those things you might like. Choice is whether you leave them. So we've got the mirror image of the bins down here. So it's up to you whether you have those or whether you do it manually by cropping and having different areas. The bigger the area, the harder it is. Now, a way to extend this particular task and to make it a little bit different would be to, instead of just taking 5 images like I've got here without any people in it or figures, would be to get a couple of people in the images and repeat them throughout each of the images so that when they're joined together they would appear multiple times in the panorama, and that could be a bit of fun or something to explore. So that would be the next step in this process, would be to start playing with things like that and maybe breaking the rules of what would normally be seen in a panorama. So go out, experiment, play around with vertical imagery, with horizontal images, with objects or people repeated, and see what Photoshop throws up when you trust the automated process. You could even play around with the automated process by going to the PSD file that it produces and editing the layer masks to include or exclude parts of the image that are overlapped. So have a bit of fun with it and see what you come up with.